major powers. So here major powers would be like what? USA, USSR, and China. So those three are the major powers where we'll be talking about how India's perception or how has India changed its notion with the changing of power tactics. So first, let us dive into India's relationships with USA. So, like as the title says, it's contemporary. So if we understand like the contemporary notion of it, if we look at the relationships between India and USA in recent times, you might be seeing news like President of USA coming to India, then Prime Minister Modi going to USA, and recently in the view of Bangladesh also, recently Modi has visited USA. He met President Donald Trump, and we had this agreements or MOUs about um the trade deal or be it defense deal. So in purview of that, we can see that it's a known notion that the relationships with of India with USA has been changing. So initially, although it's been changing, whether friends or foe is a secondary, but although it's been changing, we can understand that the relationship with India of USA has been improving. Okay, but we can also say if we are friends in the notion of defense, we are friends in the notion of fighting against terrorism. But when it comes to trade and the WTO blue box or amber box, or in terms of tariffs, we are not friends with USA. We fight on neck to neck in notion to those things. So if we talk about like how did we end up with that hostile situation, or how has our situations have improved over a period. So we have to understand what is the relationship between India and USA. So first of all, we vary our relationships from cordial to hostile from time to time, and both countries to be, if considered, we and USA are both ruled by United Kingdom. I hope you all remember American history. So we had been colonized by Britain, and similarly, USA also had been colonized by Britain. Then we have divergent views on major issues, and on such major issues we have very diverse situations, or we have very diverse opinions where the situations might tend to hostile. We might tend to have this rigorous neck to neck competition or disagreement on international spaces. So in such things, the differences could be seen in notion of where the America was scared of the communism or the communists taking over the world expansion. So that's why they were scared about Russian Revolution since 1917. But on the other hand, India has always been supportive and encouraging of this revolution. So similarly, if we talk about Chinese Revolution, 1950 also, the Mao Communist Revolution, India had always supported that. But whereas on the other hand, the USA was very skeptical. It was very uh, skeptical about recognizing those powers because it was scared that this communist expansion might take over the world, and the world might where they might come a day where the capitalistic countries would be smaller. So and also Indo-Pak conflict over Kashmir. So if you look at it over the past years, USA has always been supportive of Pakistan in terms of Kashmir. So on international ground, it has openly supported Pakistan in the terms of Kashmir, and the cease line also. It was initiated by that United Nations. So it was after that we have come with a situation or notion that the bilateral relationships between India, if there's any war like situation between India and US, Pakistan, then we do not want any other third party to be getting involved in it. But you can recently see that recent Operation Sindoor and the Pahalgam attacks, the ceasefire was being addressed by President Donald Trump in a tweet, but it was condemned by Indian officials, saying that it is just a bilateral issue. We do not want any third party brokering it. So in those situations, we have very hostile position with USA. And next one is US military aid to Pakistan. So same again. This has proved in the recent issue also, where IMF has given loans to Pakistan, which their budgetary allocations was shifted to procuring defense missiles, defense military, etc. So all those things, we have neck to neck conflict between India and USA. Now, next comes Indo-American relationships between Cold War. Now, what happened during Cold War? USA thought that India would support either capitalistic USA or communist Russia. But interestingly, India has chosen to follow a third path, which is non-aligned movement. So another third block, where it also indulged the other smaller nations or asked for them to join in this third path also, which is called non-aligned movement. So again, there we did not go by it. We wanted not to be a pawn between any of the two powerful blocks. Okay, so we tried to maintain our distance from all these three blocks. So it decided to block communist expansion through diplomacy and other means. Now, next one is India and USA. So, India and USA, it interfered in the affairs of Vietnam, Middle East, and Germany in the formation of military blocs like NATO CENTO against the USSR. So what happened? Vietnam War with where the communist rise was fought, and in Middle East also, and in Germany also. USA has always been taking active part, and it wanted India to join any of the blocs like these military blocs like NATO and CENTO, which are formed against the USSR, where USSR has formed Warsaw Pacts. So India did not join any of the military blocs because we have formed our own third bloc, which is what do we call, which is non-aligned bloc. So India was in need of America's economic and technological aid to improve its economy. So the policy of non-alignment through which it intended to maintain cordial relationships with superpower. So now if you ask anybody, or if you retrospect into your things, if you ask yourself like, why did we form this third block, is we don't want to take any of the sides. Okay, so oh fine, we don't want to take any of the sides. But do we have to, but we do need these power structure. We do need these economic sanctions. We do need these technological innovations to grow as a country, to develop as a nation. So in purview of those, what happened was the India had formed the third bloc, and it tried to maintain cordial relationships with both USA and USSR, so that uh, we'll get our military aid, we'll get our technological innovation techniques, and we'll get our economic aid. So all these things but Americans consider non-alignment as opportunistic, immoral, and impracticable. See, if there are any two blocks, if you form a third block and try to negotiate with those two blocks, obviously the powerful one will try to criticize you, right? So that was the America's stand on that. So it had considered this non-alignment as aides and allies of communism. So this was serious allegation that has been put forward by USA. Now the next one is attitude towards People's Republic of China. So now what happened here? India has already recognized this People's Republic of China immediately after the Communist Revolution in 1950. But USA did not recognize it. It was very skeptical, and it was also India was also like it. We put forward this conciliatory approach towards the communist regime in China, and also um, on the other hand, America was leading advocate of Non-recognition. So America was leading advocate of non-recognition of communist China, whereas India's stand is that it's a greater threat from communist infiltration and subversion. So in this notion of addressing or recognizing the Communist People's Party of China, we have always been forefront, like we have recognized it. But USA was always skeptical. It tried to denegotiate. It tried to say that this may lead to the rise of communism all over the world. So that's why it did not try, or it did not wish to accept or recognize this. Then on Kashmir issue also, so this is very crucial and important issue if you are talking from Indian perspective. So in this also, America has given full support to the Pakistan only, and it had internationally recognized Kashmir as a disputed area. So that's why the LOC was done, and ceasefire has existed after Indo-Pak War of 1962. So all those things has led to the tensions or the issues or differences between India and USA. Then during 1950, Pakistan also joined them by becoming a member of NATO and CENTO. But we did not join these military organizations. We have always stayed neutral, no matter what. So neutral means doesn't mean that they act neutral like Switzerland, but they did not extend any support to these third blocks, but they would address that in with decolonization, with rapid decolonization happening around the world. We should be addressing the smaller developing countries to be going forward for the technological transfer. So it's not just always about the superpowers, but they should also be encouraging this smaller nations. Then USA decided to give military aid to Pakistan against the wishes of India. This you can see during the Indo-Pak War on 1971. Then USA readily came forward to extend military aid to India when India was attacked by China in 1962. Then Indo-Pak War 1965, PRC in 1962. Then Indo-Pak War of 1971, where the US government, it was under Nixon administration. So President Nixon, what happened was he adopted a hostile attitude towards Bangladesh and India. So indirectly, they were supporting again Pakistan only. So even during Nixon administration, also it was they were supporting Pakistan, and they supported this military regime in Pakistan. Now, under the leadership of George Bush, the senior Bush, so Indian government, which was the prime ministership of the PV Narasimha Rao, we had tried to normalize these tensions. We have tried to improve these relationships between India and USA. Now, what happened? This has led to 1991 LPG, liberalization, privatization, and globalization, where India has opened up its borders, and the notion of global village have come into picture, where the monopoly of government in certain as sectors has been taken off, and where the license Raj have come to an end, where the MNCs have been extending their arms. The foreign investment infrastructure has been coming to India through like the technological transfer or through transfer of resources, establishing companies here, creating employment. So that's how the things have been going. But in Pokhran nuclear test 1998, Pokhran nuclear test 1998 is second Pokhran 2. So here what happened was American government and the European nations have imposed economic sanctions against India. They did not like that India to be becoming a another nuclear power nation. So initially the first Pokhran was a secretive test, which was Operation Smiling Buddha. Now the Pokhran 2 is 1998. So this was during Vajpayee's um, prime ministership, and in 1999 also we have seen the Kargil war. So what happened? This Prime Minister Vajpayee was able to overcome this economic sanctions through extending its arms or sending on a diplomatic level, or addressing issues on an diplomatic level. So that's how we have tried to decrease this hostile type situations. So now everything has changed after 2001. So 2001, what happened? The World Trade Center was attacked by, it was a terrorist attack by Al Qaeda. So here the Bush administration gave slogan which is called War Against Terror. So to which India has extended its full cooperation. So from here, the USA has understood that the India is no more made to decent power. It's an emerging power in South Asia, and this should be we should be having the better relationships, and also it's a democratic nation, unlike where the terrorism or terror aspects would be there in Pakistan. So it's better to side up with India and secure the position in this Indian Ocean region. So this is how which had led to further cooperation between India and USA can be seen in India USA civil nuclear cooperation. So this civil nuclear cooperation was like in 2005 when SINE came into power in 2008. So what happened was it is a civilian nuclear agreement between USA and uh, India. So like the nuclear technology would be transferred to India, but this technology would be, or the resources would be used only for civil nuclear purposes. So we would not be developing any military weapons. We would not be developing any defense materials, but rather we would be having this civil nuclear for a clean energy initiatives. So India's status as a full-fledged nuclear power was recognized. So earlier they were very skeptical in recognizing India as a nuclear power state, because due to that only, like India did not sign this NPT, non-nuclear non-proliferation treaty, which had occurred in 1964, 67. So what happened was, I think 64 China has become nuclear power. Then 67 this NPT has come into picture. So where this NPT has been always irregular, like it's like imbalanced, where the powers who had procured the nuclear technology till 1963 would only be recognized as a nuclear power state. Whereas the other nations who would become a member to it, they would not be recognized as such, but also they would not be allowed to conduct any tests in future. So they should be taking this technology only from these countries. So or else these countries would be helping them in a situations where if there is any war like attempt would be made on those nations. So India thought that this is very irreconcilable, and it's like it has this imbalanced nature. So that's why they did not agree up for it. So but later in 2005, India was recognized with this civil nuclear deal as a nuclear power state. So now the relationships between USA and India further improved during the tenure of Barack Obama and Narendra Modi. So now another Indo-US Delhi Declaration friendship was made. So where the defense technology in cooperation, the transnational crime, terrorism, narcotics, cyber, and other threats would be addressed. Then the smart cities programs has also been given a fillip. Now, in 2020, Donald Trump, accompanied by a very high level delegation, paid 2 day visit to India. Now, like you can see that before we had in hostile type situations. Now, imagine the president of USA coming to India, and and it is like showing, and it is like showing a power structure that, like the geopolitics, the power arena in the international space has been changed. Now, the global strategic partnership has been signed. So, India and USA India has recognized India as sorry. USA has recognized India as a global strategic partner. So, because they both have, both the nations have democratic values, increasing convergence of interests on bilateral, regional, and global issues. So earlier, the convergence on issues or convergence on the ongoing conflicts in the world, India and USA were on two different paths. But over a period, with the in the recent times, they both had been on the similar sides. So that's why we have been recognized as a global strategic partner with USA. These are very important MCQs. So you can see the US, the friendship treaty between US was signed where like this could be called as Delhi Declaration between Barack Obama and Narendra Modi. Then strategic partnership. When was India been declared, and what are these terms and conditions that comes under this strategic partnership? Then upcoming initiatives like security of supply arrangement, this is SOSA. Then recently we had this defense acceleration ecosystem. This is Index X. This also might be an important MCQ. They might ask you question like Index X is between which all countries and what it is. So it is defense acceleration ecosystem between India and USA to foster collaboration among defense companies, investors, and research institutions. Then it also challenges the imbalance caused friction affecting sectors like agriculture and manufacturing. So we all know that even though we had this better relationships between USA and India. But when it comes to agriculture and trade, we've always been on neck to neck. So neck to neck hostile situations. So that is why these countries are also, these relationships are also improving on a day to day basis. Then some challenges we can find is imbalances cause friction affecting sectors like agriculture and manufacturing. Then US seeks free data flow while India emphasizes on data localization for privacy. This big data system or big data concept has been in news, like with India introducing this data privacy localization and data privacy bill. It had been against this US notion where US has always seek this free data flow, but India emphasizes data localization for privacy and all. Then US visa regulations like the H-1B visas. H-1B visas are like the professional visas where it may limit the Indian IT professionals and their movement, and it might affect the tech industry also. So now another thing would be like bureaucratic delays and disagreements slow the defense collaborations, like the delay in finalizing the Predator drone deal. So in some of the issues also, we still have these issues. I'm not saying nobody is calling that we have the like the heart to heart relationship with America, but we still have these hostile situations. But these hostile situations are also like improvable. Like unlike before, these are very improvable, and we have can sit and talk in like one to one, like the diplomatic levels or track one, track two, or para diplomacy. So all those things can be addressed. Actually, earlier there was no scope for at least addressing also. Now, the another one is the diverging views on Russia, Iran, and other regional conflicts sometimes challenge bilateral strategic cooperation. So, because uh, if taking decision in support of USA means we are we have been denying the other countries' position. So, which is not exactly not what India wanted it to be. So, that is what we avoided during this Cold War, right? So in such situations, we've tried to have this one-on-one position to talk. Then enhance the tech collaborations. So this is like aligning data privacy standards and expanding cybersecurity cooperation, then easing H1B weak restrictions and resolve trade disputes. So all these things could help India and USA have better relationships, bilateral relationships, which could be improvised in future. Then diplomatic engagement, like strengthening US India engagement in multilateral forums like Quad, IPEF, while leveraging India's strategic role in Global South to address global governance differences and enhance economic and security influence, like to ease data localization norms, to facilitate US tech investments in India. So, all these things can better improve like India's relationship with USA. So, this is what India and USA and how has their relationships been there from the past until present times and what it could be in future. This might be an important question in your semester exam. So be prepared. We try to address all the points for better score. Now let us understand about India and Russia. So India and Russia, uh, one second. So India and Russia, we always know that India and Russia are like friends. So, in comparison to what relationship we have with USA, so like earlier it was so like better relationship until Stalin, but in the later part after the death of Stalin and later part of 1950s, the relationships between India and Russia has been improvised. So like we can call it USSR, not Russia. So the USSR, so they did not accept the thesis of Soviet communist threat, and also like which was being a notion of USA, like this Soviet communism highly coming to power and this revolutions taking over and the eruption of communist states, they thought that the capitalistic nations might be at the threat. So earlier Soviet attitudes towards India. So with the visits of like we'll talk about since the beginning. So from Nehru's visit to USSR in 1955 and of Bulgarin and Khrushchev to India in November and December the same year. So you can see even before the US president, the Russian prime ministers, the Russian uh, premiers have been coming to India, and this proved the Indo-Soviet friendships. And also, they also like on a contrary to USA's view, Russia has always been supportive of this Kashmir issue in terms of India. So it has always said that the Kashmir is an integral part of India, but whereas the USA had always this different side they were taking of the Pakistan. So, but this was something that to be understood of. Then USSR understood stood as a true friend of India in number of times and supported both through either defense or economy or like technology transfer, like anything as such. So, in favor of India and on issues of like liberation of Goa, Bangladesh, or with respect to Kashmir, if you go before in USA's notion in such things, where you can understand that USA has not been supportive of India in such things, right? So, but here it has been very supportive and understood that. Like it has always supported Indian stance. Like if you can go back to the previous slides and understand like how USA and Russia had been on total different plane. Got it? So then USSR also extended its economic, technological, and military assistance to India, whereas the USA was very skeptical, but USSR was very supportive in terms of such things. Then Soviet Union was mainly responsible for construction of heavy industries like Bilai and Bokaro steel plants. So not just transfer of technology, but it has also been helping India in procuring or developing such heavy industries, which will enhance its position, which will enhance its position in future. So, in favor of India also, so the Soviet Union was mainly responsible for construction of heavy industries, and we also had this Indo-Soviet friendship. Why? Because Soviet and India both took same identical stand on international issues rather than like unlike the USA where it always took the opposition view or it had always supported Pakistan, but Soviet has always supported India. Now, next, People's Republic of China into United Nations and the Korean War. So, in USA did not support this also, whereas India had and USA had taken both had taken sides of admitting the China into United Nations and also in the purview of like the Korean War, the 1953, the parallel the North Korea and South Korea split. So this has also been supported by like they excuse me both India and Russia had USSR had the same stand. Now next the Indo-China or the Suez Canal or liberation of African colonies from imperialist rule. So on all this notion, India and Russia, USSR had always been like acting on a same note. So and also Indo-Pak War of 1965. So earlier I've said same 1965 only, then again I've said 1962 something. So it's 1965 only, my bad. 1962 is Indo-China War, I think. Yeah. So Indo-Pak War of 1965, then Indo-Pak War of or liberation of Bangladesh of 1971. So in all these positions, Russia has always or USSR has always been taking the sides of India. So in fact the war has it played the mediator role in 1965 war, where the both countries were called to Tashkent, and Tashkent agreement was signed between the both premiers, both prime ministers in of both the countries, that the war has to stand off and a, uh, war has to stand off and the ceasefire should cease to exist. So all these things also been mediated by USSR. Now Indo-Soviet Treaty or Friendship Cooperation Treaty of 1971 also where it was signed because Soviet would come to rescue in case an attack by Pakistan, China or any other nations. So this Indo Friendship Treaty was made, it was curated between Soviet Russia and India also. Now, next, the landmark in the field of Soviet Indo-Soviet collaboration. So, this friendship treaty has been marked as a landmark, and it enhanced the socio-economic and the political relationships between these two countries. So this event has made the relationships between Indo-Soviet has on another level. Like so, this has made a statement that we are on your side if anything other happens. So India is trying to establish its relationships between emerging republics like Latvia, Russia, Uzbekistan, etc. Like with USSR disintegration, all these Russian Federation and all the smaller nations, communist nations have formed, right? So India has also tried to have the similar relationships that it had with former Soviet Union. So it tried to enhance its relationships. And then Indo-Russian relationships at the time of disintegrations. In these things, you can see that the cooperation we had not only with Russian Federation, but also the smaller independent Commonwealth nations also, which had formed aftermath of disintegration of Soviet Union. So these countries also we tried to have this better relationships. So it's like nothing has changed except for the Soviet Russia has disintegrated. Sorry, Soviet Union has disintegrated and formed into smaller Commonwealth nations and the Russian Federation. So in spite of that, also we had similar relationships between all the communist nations. So improvement of relationships between India and Russia. So this you can see during President Yeltsin's visit to India in 1993. This was after the disintegration, and they signed a new treaty, new friendship treaty and cooperation in the fields of economic, political, and social and technological difference, all such various fields. And similarly, the Russia has also offered support to India on Kashmir by asserting that Kashmir is an integral part of India. And in 1994, P.V. Narasimha Rao, who was Prime Minister of India, he has visited Russia and made pacts on or agreements or MOUs on various subjects or various fields like defense, like science, technology, environment, and all such things. And also established a hotline. Hotline means that mobile, excuse me. Hotline means this on an diplomatic head to head level phone call connection in terms of a war or in terms of any political consultations. So this hotline was established between New Delhi and Moscow. Then India and Russia relationships between in 21st century. So what happened in October 2000? So in October 2000, the President Putin had paid visit to India. So and this had led to like the ground break realities and India in international space. And because in 1998 we had this economic and political sanctions because of the Pokhran 2 testings by the USA and the European nations. But Russian president visiting India around the similar time had given some uh, lesson or gave some big projection in the outside world. So this was like during his visit, we had done this four defense agreements. So in which the strategic partnership between India and Russia was signed. This was in 2000 under Vajpayee and President Putin. So this is to neutralize any threat to India if it is coming from some other side. Then Vajpayee also visited Moscow in 2001 and they both issued a joint statement. So this is very interesting. This joint statement against terrorism and pledged to set up Indo-Russian military cooperation. So imagine USA also coming to India stand around the same time was to just get their position, get their existence in the Indian Ocean region. Now, the Memorandum of Understanding, this is MOU. So, this MOU was signed between India and Russia. So, this was for implementation of Russian designed Kudankulam nuclear power plant in Tamil Nadu. So, now this nuclear technology establishment. So, initially, first it was steel plant, now it is this. And now, recently, if you have seen during this Pahalgam attacks, like the retaliation by India during Operation Sindoor, S-400. This is also an Russian defense procurement. So India's defense imports, although seem to have shifted from little bit of Russia to France or USA, but we still have this better technology transfer from Russia. Then growing alignment with China, India's regional rival, has also raised concerns in India because Russia has been growing its relationships with China. So this India thought that this was a little threat to our own safety or friendship. So Russia also delayed S-400, but uh, triumphant defense system largely due to Ukraine conflict and related sanctions. This also has raised concern on India's defense crisis, but it got uh, delivered and as a part of like the MTCR, where the China has also asked for this S-400, but China was given, I think, S-300. It was denied S-400 because it was not part of MTCR. So Russia had asked first it to become part of MTCR, then they will be given such procurements. Then India's neutral stand on Ukraine war has also been criticized by Western allies, while Russia is expected stronger support. See, so the Western allies thought that India should criticize this Russian nuclear war by supporting Ukraine and Russian Ukraine war by supporting Ukraine and criticizing Russia. And but also Russia had thought that India should have taken a positive stand in supporting the Russia rather than going neutral, because we tried to balance both the friendship and the criticism from the outside world. So in purview of that, Russia was skeptical that it should have taken a positive stand by supporting us rather than neutral tone. So now we can understand that India and Russia had marked 78 years of like the diplomatic engagement, and despite shifting dynamics, Indo-Russian ties are poised to remain strong with new frontiers in trade, technology, defense, and cooperation. So this is how the Indo-Russian and Indo-China's Indo-US relationships has always been. So this is also an important question because especially with S-400 and our Indian air dome system in in position to Israel's Iron Dome system. So with India's defense was very successful in attacking or in crashing those missiles which are coming from the enemy state. So in purview of that, S-400 was also been very tactical and helpful in protecting India from its from the nuclear from the from the air strikes from the enemy nations. So in purview of that, this they might also ask you a question with India, US, and India, Russia, and analyze their relationships, like how has been relationships in the past and how has the relationships emerged positively, and how the relationships might go in future. So these are all important questions that you have to remember. And one more chapter, one more subtopic in this is Indo-China. So this Indo-China and India and its neighbors will be reading in the upcoming lectures. So stay tuned for these lectures now. For today, you have to understand the relationships between India and Russia and India and the USA. So for the more details, you have to read these behind stories You have to read certain textbooks where they'll help you understand like how the relationships have been frowned before, like how USA was supporting Pakistan on every notion because it thought that uh, it wanted to USA wanted to have its presence in the South Asian region. So it had taken side of Pakistan because it knew that India have had this close relationships with Russia. So they wanted a counterpart or an ally of them in the South Asian region. So if in terms of any war-like situations or if terms of any global disturbances, that ally would be taken support of. But the USA has always supported Pakistan. In Kashmir stand also, you could have seen that USA has been supported that Kashmir belongs to the disputed area should be given back to Pakistan. But whereas Russia has said that the Kashmir is India's region and it should always been recognized. So in those things, both had different stance. Then in agriculture, in or tariffs in war trade also, they both have different stand. And in coming to like helping or supporting, this you could have seen during 1965 Indo-Pak War and 1971 liberation of Bangladesh. USA has always supported this military regime of Pakistan, but whereas Russia has always supported the India stand. Okay, so this you can understand. Then a friendship treaty was signed between India and Russia way ahead in 1970. Than before the India US Delhi Friendship Declaration, which was signed recently during presidency of Obama, and how has different presidents of USA has acted towards India, and in the USA's stand on in being declared India as a nuclear power. So why they were skeptical initially, so why they wanted to, this was mainly because of the rise of their counterpart China has led USA to change its stand on the notion of India, so that their existence in or their presence in Indian Ocean and the South Asian region could be succeeded. So this is how the Indo Russia and Indo US relationships we've had over a period. So you can explain these through the Indo-Pak War or Indo-China War or liberation of Bangladesh, or it is during Pokhran 1, Pokhran 2, and Kargil War 1999. Uh, then all this and the disintegration of USSR in 1991, then Civil Nuclear Defense Deal 2008, which was initiated in 2005. So all these things you can understand the change of position or the relationships between Russia, India, and USA and India. You can find the clear differences, and you can also understand the way forward. You have to also mention the way forward, like how the relationships could go depending on the defense deals that we have today and the trade tariffs that we have today and the technological transfer or the economical sanctions that we have today with both Russia and USA. So you can explain in such a way. So tomorrow's lecture, we'll read about Indo-China, like how has relationships between India and China has been there, and also India and its neighbors. So we'll also read about India, Bangladesh, and India, Pakistan, and India, Sri Lanka. So with this four, we'll be coming in upcoming two more lectures. So I think you have to revise these things, go through the slide, then you'll understand and note down important points with respect to. You can also write with respect to Operation Sindoor also, the Pahalgam attacks, like how has been the international support been there to India, who all has supported, like who has been the enemies, and what were the other countries stand on this, where were they, who were they supporting. Okay, so all these things you can understand and go through this lecture once again. So see you all tomorrow with Indo-China and the Bangladesh and Pakistan. So I hope you all understood today's lecture. So see you tomorrow with another lecture.